I believe if you put out to the universe, it's great. You're telling the universe you don't need anything more. Well, the
Mm,
reality is, I want it to be more. I want to be able to
mm,
bring other coaches in. I want us to be able to help others move from burnout to courageous, bold impact. I want people
mm,
to live a full life that is connected with their purpose and passion. And the only way that that happens is by continuing to grow. So
mm.
when people go like, how's it going? It's going really well for the stage that I'm in. I'm excited for what's coming next.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Wynn, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Career Coaching Secret Podcast. I'm Kevin. Today we are joined by the one and only Beverly Flores. She is the founder of Time Out Consulting, just like spelled like the herb. Welcome to the show, Beverly.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Excited to be on here. And I'm sure that's a question we're going to go into, is the background of time and why I chose it.
We are going to go straight in it. I want to hear the origin story. I want to hear the lore. What was the moment that you decided to be a coach or a consultant and just launch your consulting business? And how did you get the name for it?
Yeah, everybody wants to know, and it's really critical. I think when you go into coaching and consultants, that you know what started you, right? And for me, I had a 24-year corporate career. I was a leader at a Fortune 100 company and loved it until I didn't. There was a growing disconnect between my personal values. I'm a single parent of 3 amazing boys. That's always come first for me. And yet that career also provided security for myself and my boys. And so I stayed because of that. And I stayed because of the loyalty to the people. And through all of that, as that disconnect kept growing, I didn't look forward to going into the job. I look forward to coming home because that was my safe place. That's where I was courageous and vivacious. And as things went forward, had kind of one of those career events. And then there was a restructuring. And I was so thankful because at that point, I obviously had a severance package and I was now free to make a choice. So I've been there when you feel like you don't have a choice. And, I put that out to the universe of like, please help me figure out what I can do next. And that came in the form of a restructuring and a severance package. So I took about 30 days. I knew in my heart that I wanted to be able to help people live and lead with courageous impact. That's always been something that's really critical to me. So I said, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to see what I can do in a year. And after a year, if I need to reevaluate that, I will, because I still have the responsibility to my family at the end of the day. And so we're coming up with all these, names. And I reached out to my oldest son. He happened to be studying abroad and he's really into music and art. And he named this flower that, quite frankly, like, I don't think I would be able to pronounce it correctly on a regular basis. And I know other people wouldn't. And I was like, why would you say that? And he's like, well, it means, and he kind of defined myself in a sense. I was like, oh, hold on. Like, one of my core values is courage. And I know it takes strength to make and change and to lead. And I was like, so, okay, Google plants and flowers that mean courage and strength, and time came to the top. So time has been used throughout history and given to soldiers going into battle as a symbol of courage and strength. And so my motto at Time Out Consulting is courage to change and strength to lead. I also happen to love sports. And so as part of that, so we had Time Consulting, and I was like, that's nice. But you know what? When you take a time out in sports, like, you're taking that time to win. Like, you're putting your best strategy forward, right? So we got Time Out Consulting, and here we are.
I didn't think about like time the herb and like literally
Yeah.
sports. I would not like. I
I'm a
would not
massive
think
like
of those.
rugby fan, and yeah, like I have these great, incredible contradictions, right? I like on my desk, I literally have a cricket ball, test cricket, because I love test cricket.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
We could talk about sports if you want, but I
Oh,
think this is
totally.
a
Tell
coaching
all day
podcast.
long,
Yeah.
right? There's so many great analogies there.
I'm very curious. Like you said, during that 1 year, you were trying to figure out your coaching business and stuff. How long has it been since that time now?
Okay, so here's the reality. It's going to be a
Mm.
year here in 1 month.
Really?
Yeah, I'm 11 months in. I love what I'm doing. It is sustainable to the point to keep going. You know,
Mm.
everyone asks you, how's it going? And I haven't yet decided if I love or dislike this question. And here's why,
Mm.
because I believe if you put out to the universe, it's great. You're telling the universe you don't need anything more. Well, the
Mm.
reality is, I want it to be more. I want to be able to
Mm.
bring other coaches in. I want us to be able to help others move from burnout to courageous, bold impact. I want people
Mm.
to live a full life that is connected with their purpose and passion. And the only way that that happens is by continuing to grow. So
Mm.
when people go like, how's it going? It's going really well for the stage that I'm in. I'm excited for what's coming next. Right? This is one of those really
Mm.
important questions, I think, when you're starting, that you don't try and make it too positive. You do have to be pragmatic. You have to be realistic. And that hits home for me every single day, taking care of myself and 3 boys on my own. I
Mm.
can't afford to be unrealistic. And at the
Mm.
same time, it is that optimism, that belief that keeps you going when you've
Mm.
had, the fourth no, in a day. And yet then tomorrow you get this amazing yes. And you're like, yes, that's what I needed. Right. And you keep building on
Mm.
that.
Ooh, so we caught you at a very unique time then.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew, I got this right around me. Again, all these sports analogies. And again, I can totally tie it to sports of like, you have to keep believing in the strategy. You lose one game, you can't change everything. And I think that is one of the things, when you're building your coaching and consulting side of it. And thankfully, I have 24 years of business experience. Key to me being able to get to this point. And I was very fortunate to have a lot of different roles, right? I was in government relations. I was a lobbyist. I was a sales
Mm.
manager. I did mergers and acquisitions. I was our PR director. I was our advertising director for North and South America. Like, I know what that looks like when you hold to a strategy, and also when you need to slightly pivot. And what does that look like? And at the heart of that, you have to maintain that foundation. So just because
Mm.
someone says no doesn't mean you shift everything. You evaluate what worked well, what can you make improvements on, and then you keep moving that forward in terms of consistency, because that's what's going to build your confidence.
Well, I didn't know you had such an extensive. Well, I probably could look more into your LinkedIn, but I didn't know you had such an extensive background too.
Yeah.
And so let's actually talk about the business side for a second. Who do you help right now with your consulting business?
So I primarily help, high achieving individuals, mission driven leaders. And so I say that, as sort of a tagline. Most look like, kind of early 40s to mid 50s. They
Mhm.
are either coming into leadership or management roles and want to show up better and differently than the examples that they've had. They're also, they've got life going on right at this point, and they want to love what they do. They also want to love their life, and they're finding some
Mm.
conflicts, and so helping to move from that burnout to living that full life. And you can do both. And then the
Mm.
other side of it are the leaders. Like, they have the title and they've kind of gotten there and gone, oh, not sure this was exactly what I thought I was getting. Paycheck is nice, right? But I don't know that I'm loving what I'm doing, right? They may be having some personal
Mm.
relationship challenges that are occurring. They're
Yeah.
having to make a decision inside office politics. Do I keep going for the next promotion, or do I remain authentic to who I am as an individual? So one of the
Mm.
things that I do with my audience, with my clients, is we start with a values exercise. What are your
Mm.
2 core values? And this is extremely critical in a corporate environment and a business environment, because we get conditioned to do what the business and the company says are the core values. And we don't ever sit down and ask ourselves, am I in alignment with, or am I in
Mm.
alignment with the paycheck? When we start to see that gap widening, then you lose that sense of purpose. And yes, the security is nice, but that security actually might be the main thing that's keeping you from your true potential.
Wow, that's very powerful. There's that cliche quote out there like, oh, yeah, growth is like supposed to be uncomfortable, but when you're in it, getting punched in the face, it feels very, very real. You're
Yeah.
like, dude,
Yeah.
I know about this, but I want to do the opposite. I want to run in the other direction.
Right. And that's natural. I try and take a very holistic human
Mm,
approach to leadership coaching. So you're not going to bring me in because you want to be a better leader. You're going to bring me in because you want to be a better person who
mm.
happens to be a leader. We need more of that authentic humanity in our leaders today.
I definitely agree with that, which leads me to actually this next question too, right? Like, how do people kind of find you? Or like, as like, I know that you're within the first year, right? How have you
Mhm.
been finding clients?
So, a couple different ways. First has been within my own network and referrals.
Mm,
I joined our local Chamber of Commerce, which I highly recommend if you have those opportunities. Join the face to face network, especially if you have services. Right, trying to explain what that is. You can do it on a website, you can do it on social media. I know I show up better in person than I do in
mm,
a just, an ad or a post. So it's really critical to me to be able to have those conversations. So I've done
mhm.
it through networking, I've done it through joining business organizations to help with that. I've built a strong LinkedIn profile. So ironically, even leading advertising for North and South America, don't tell anyone, but I really don't like social media. It is not my favorite place. So I don't like to naturally spend a lot of time on social media. So I made a choice like, I'm going to be on LinkedIn. I'm going to
Mhm.
build that network. I'm going to build the conversation. And I've built in 11 months here almost 1,800 new connections. And I'm very
Mm,
authentic about them. I don't use an automation tool at this point because it's really critical to me in my coaching, the authenticity. So at this
yeah.
point, I would rather make the first connection with someone and we build it through three-step scenario that I've created. And that aligns with my signature EEI system, which is what I call energy, enthusiasm, and intensity. I show up with
Mm,
that. I parent that way, much to the dismay of my boys at times, and I coach that way. And that's how I've led.
yeah.
And so I've started that way. And then I made the decision back in May that I wanted to lean into earned media. So you and I are talking, so it's working. I like talking, I like engaging and listening with people. So that earned media really resonates better for me. And then as I
Mhm.
get that going, which it is, then I'll lead into, some of the paid media and building that out. But,
Mm,
I've got a Google business profile that's doing fantastic. We've got, 5-star reviews. So it's really just connecting all of those different points together so that they work together. I think as individuals look at it, there's so many options out there, from coaches for coaches, to paid media, earned media, organic. Trying to make the right decision is going to come down to like listen to your intuition. Don't listen to someone that's just telling you a sales number. Like if it doesn't feel right to you, then don't jump into it, right? If it
yeah.
feels inherently like it resonates, ask good questions, lean into that one.
Yeah, that's been very interesting because I've been personally going kind of through that where I'm just like trying to trust my intuition sometimes, but then the comfort side it hijacks me and I'm just like, oh, but
Oh my gosh, yeah.
yeah, no, I just really resonate with what you're saying. And one thing I am also very curious too on the business side is like I know that networking has worked really well for you. 1800 just like you doing it by yourself is insane
Yeah,
by
I'm
the way.
over
Like that is
2,000 now.
really
And I was like, yay.
that's
And I had an
crazy.
intern this summer and she was invaluable. So she was in charge of the first question or first
Oh,
engagement. And we did A
I
B
see.
testing. And again, I have the business background. So I know the foundations of
Mhm.
how to bring this forward. We'd send out the connection request. If somebody connected, she'd immediately respond back with a very thoughtful,
Mhm.
engaging question. And when they answered, then I engaged back, right? But we're getting
Yeah.
fantastic engagement on the posts and we've got a clear strategy for that. So it's been great.
Have you ran into any challenges though, finding like new clients at all? Like any
Oh,
setbacks that were kind of like, I didn't expect that.
Oh, 100%. Probably not the best time to try and start a consulting business in economic and political uncertainty. Because you
Oh,
know
yeah.
what? When people are uncertain, that usually means they pull back. And, this
Mm,
is true in business. The first thing that most companies or businesses will cut or not spend on in uncertainty two things: advertising people development. The two last things you should actually not stop spending on, because here's the thing, they're extremely hard to quantify, right? Advertising is one of my pet peeves. How do you know what the ROI is for your advertising? It is challenging. We have better written numbers because of data and insight, right, from paid media. And then how do I know that I developed you, Kevin, right? That's one of the challenges, right? I could say on paper, right, you showed up for all the coaching sessions, we made XYZ progress. And at the same time, if you don't put that into action in your job, I don't know. So I've been very purposeful in how I do my coaching with, we identify 3 challenges that we're specifically going to work on through that. And then we move that forward into a summary report at the end that has more of those quantifiable results to it. But challenges, top of funnel continues to be, of course, you always want more when we think about that awareness piece of that. And so I've taken, again, a very patient approach to that because I'm going for the long game. So I have to build that credibility on the front side to move that forward. I've had several clients that were, so I have 2 models, the B2B and the B2C. I've covered the B2C mostly, but I also work with companies they want a leadership development program to come in. And I've spent hours on these conversations with them, only to get to a point where they're like, hey, the economics, they just haven't changed like we thought they were going to. We want to talk with you in 26. Great. But here's the thing, I'm all about reflection. There are things that I have learned through those conversations that I've then taken into the next conversation so that I ask better questions. So instead of sitting in the, well, I didn't get that and, that lost potential income, what did I learn from that? Not what could I have done differently, because that's already passed, right? What can I bring forward instead? And that's helped me to, one, I think, become more concise in my sales pitches, provide greater clarity. And I also give less away for free. And I think that's a really critical piece. And when you're having those early conversations, don't oversell. Because if you oversell, then you've given them less reasons to work with you because you just gave them a lot of free stuff.
And so it sounds like you've really thought about those boundaries, I guess, of what to give out and what to keep.
I have. And so I purposely, I use a booking tool. There's 30-minute pre-conversations. We're walking through, this is about me gathering information, and I provide one takeaway for them to act on. So even if they don't sign with me in that term, they get one thing that they can say, actually, that was a good use of my time for 30 minutes. And who knows, down the road, they may come back and be like, what, I appreciate, you didn't oversell me at that point. You gave me something actionable. I really liked it. And now I'm in a different place, potentially financially, or I'm ready to make this choice. And I appreciated your authenticity. So I'm coming back to you. And that's how I've gotten a lot of my referrals. I've gotten now clients. So out of my one-on-one 10-week programs that I've offered, I have around 60% have come back for secondary follow-up coaching on a regular basis.
How does the revenue look? Are you seeing more stable revenue over time versus these huge peaks and valleys and stuff?
In the last couple months, yes, it's getting a little bit more now that, these early participants have finished, and now they're like, oh, actually, I'd like to continue on just, on a monthly basis. Cool. Here's what that looks like. So as you think about how you break out the revenue pieces of this, and that's why I also chose a B2B and a B2C model. B2B takes longer. It is usually a larger contract, so there is some return on that time investment. The B2C then slots in between those. And then if you get the reoccurring revenue coming at the baseline, that takes some of the pressure off up there from the variability.
That's really interesting. And are there any revenue streams that you're looking to add or double down on, I guess?
I would love to get my keynote speaking. So I'm one of those unique people that like being on stage. It's only because I love interacting with the audience. I love seeing those aha moments. I love when somebody, even in corporate environments, there's always somebody that goes to sleep in the audience, right? They're wishing they weren't there. Those are my favorite people. When you say something and all of a sudden they're engaged and you see that aha moment, I love those opportunities. I've done it since I was a kid growing up in 4-H, a lot of speaking opportunities. So I'm looking forward to getting more of those, because even if someone doesn't sign with me after that conversation, they leave with one thing. Think about that. If you leave every conversation you have with someone with one thing, if you have that purposeful observation of what can I take from this one conversation with someone? Think about where you'd be at the end of the day, at the end of the week, end of the month, end of the year, like one thing every day that you could take away.
It would probably start to compound really, really quickly.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
think about that. Somebody's going to talk with you. You might be their one thing. We need more of that, more of the energy creation, more of this enthusiasm to connect with people instead of the taking it away.
It's really interesting. One thing just your energy that you kind of give me is like, you really thought, like, you're very intentional about like your boundaries, your containers, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And I think one of the hardest parts for a lot of coaches, the people I've met and stuff, is like the container for pricing models and stuff. I'm kind of curious, how did you kind of discover the pricing model that kind of works for you?
I did an early coaching program because I felt like I needed to get some clarity on my offering. I ended up not liking the program very much.
Really?
And here's why. Because I felt they hyper focused on fear. And they created that almost as this is why you're connected with us, because you're afraid. And I was like, but I'm not afraid. Like, I'm leaning into courage. Courage means that you do things that are hard. They take you putting yourself into them. And I'm leaning into this with courage. I'm not doing it out of fear. Ego is this great defender. Ego loves fear. It is how it armors up. Like, it is going to battle to protect you. And so what that looks like in a coaching scenario is going, oh, I don't know if anybody would buy our services for that price. You have to believe your own value and worth to be able to do this day in and day out. I know I have 24 years of incredible Fortune 100 leadership and strategy experiences. I know most days I'm actually a pretty cool person. I'm pretty easy to talk with, and I love what I do. So I have the right to be asking for what I am. So for me, I looked at it as like, okay, I don't want to do one-day sessions because nobody has walked away from a one-day session like changing their lives, right? We usually get to about lunchtime and we're like, oh, somebody's emailing me, somebody's calling me, like I'm full. And so like, how do I make this longer? So I came up and I put into place everything that I was already doing in my leadership roles. I took the things I already knew they worked for people and I simply put a price amount to it, a dollar amount to it. Then from there, what I found was I had some opportunity that people needed a little bit more specific focus. And so I condensed into, a shorter time frame, the price that matches that. For me, and if someone is like, oh, I don't think I can afford that. Here's the thing. I don't think it's a price issue. In most cases, it's been, I didn't create the connection to the value and the solution for what they were going to get. That's a selling issue, not a price issue. That, or you have the complete wrong audience. There's an important qualifier in that. So my 10-week program is $7,000. I've had some people will pay up front, which is awesome. I take different payment options so that I have some flexibility. And if I have someone that I can tell in that early assessment, like they want to be all in. However, their current life position makes the 7,000 challenging. I will work with somebody to figure that out. That should not be the reason that someone doesn't benefit from my services or your services. Price should not be the limiting factor.
What I love about this too, this conversation, is like there are no hard rules. You make up the rules. It's your business at the end of the day, right? And so if you want to help someone, you can. If you don't, like that's also your choice.
Yeah, again, lean into your intuition. I've had 2 clients that, quite frankly, I talked them out of working with me on purpose because I was like, oh, this is going to be a mess working. Like, you think you're going to get something from this and you're going to pay me money to do this. And yet every example you've already given me, you've blamed someone else for where you are today. I don't want to be another excuse for you. Like, you aren't ready. And I've told that to someone, like, you aren't ready for this. I'm going to give you 3 things for free to go work on. And when you do those things, if you then think you want to work with me, I will be here ready to work with you, because you have to protect your business. Again, the heart of your business, of who you are, isn't for sale. Do not say yes to people or companies that your instinct, your gut is telling you. Don't say yes to that, because that will eat at the core heart of what you're trying to build.
One thing that is on my mind in the beginning of this podcast, we're deep into the fear right now, right? And you're like, oh, I don't like fear and stuff. One thing that you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, I think you mentioned something about scaling your impact, or what was the exact words that you used in the beginning of the podcast? You said something along lines of impact. I wrote that down.
Well, to me, it's about bold, courageous impact. The greatest legacy I can leave is to my 3 boys. One is 22 and I have twins that are 15. 15. We have traveled the world with, when I had a corporate career that was what we invested our money in, was because I think it's critically important that my kids see the world and they see different cultures and they meet different people. And when I started this, we had to make a conscious decision, obviously, to be fiscally responsible for this period of building. And they understood that and they appreciated that. And my twin boys went on this summer they started their own business in January, basically, for residential lawn services. And they got asked at school for the newspaper, like, why start your own business? And their answer was, we saw our mom choose to believe in herself. So we thought, why not do it for us as well? That legacy, that impact for my boys to believe in themselves is worth more than any corporate bonus. Like seeing them build their business already to where they did this summer, and the confidence, the communication skills, the Google reviews they're getting in return, right? It's about understanding the impact that you can have on others. Like use it for good, lean into your potential.
And it makes me wonder too, you talked about the personal impact that's had on your family. I guess, where do you kind of want this coaching business to take you in the next few years? Do you have any like big secret dreams or big ambitions in the back of your mind that no one knows about?
So again, my boys and I are very close. So when I was writing an early statement, to myself around what I wanted to be like, my first initial assessment was like, I want to be able to get back up to the lifestyle that we were accustomed to. And the twins came to me and they said, but could you get to 1 million? And it was kind of like, that Austin Powers, like, ooh, one. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. So I look at that from, a financial perspective, but at the other side of it, my goal is to be able to build a business that's able to bring other coaches in. I want to be able to expand our reach. I want us to be able to be this authentic example of courage. And I say all of this, coming from a personal story of, I know what it's like to be in a place of fear. I know what it's like to stay in a relationship and even a career where you stay out of fear because it's what you know. And the reality is when you stay out of fear, you're losing yourself. So my goal is to be in something that deeply resonates with me. And as a child, I wanted to be a doctor. I also wanted to be the first female NFL quarterback until I was about a teenager. And then my dad said I could not be the first female NFL quarterback. Who knows why? And so I was like, okay, so well, guess what? Now I get to be a quarterback of my own business. I get to help call plays. I get to develop the team, and I get to be my own version of a doctor. I get to help people. I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do as a child. It just looks different than the definition we would normally assign to those.
Beverly, you ready to play a game?
Ooh, okay, let's hear it.
One of these segments that we have is called Good Investment, Bad Investment. I think you alluded to like, not necessarily
I know which one's at the top of the bad investment at the moment.
So obviously, I would love to know the best thing you spent for your coaching business and the worst thing that you wish you could get your money back 1,000%, right?
Some people are going to disagree with me, and this isn't going to show up great on video per se because it's tactile. The best thing I did was invest in super, super cool business cards. I know all you digital people out there, and you're like, oh, nobody uses big, right? Look, here's the deal. I'm really good at connecting in person. So, and I purposely got different colors. Here's why, right? Because I have some female clients. This is memorable. There's some guys that like the pink ones. It has gold embossing on it. Here's the thing. It's also very tactile. It's a very smooth, thick card. Almost 100% of the time when I give somebody a business card, they go, oh, that's really nice. That's cool. And they'll start touching it, right? I'm hitting on the different senses then at that point. It's memorable. So if I'm putting something up on a board, it's yellow, stands out from everything else. And then I have traditional colors. So somebody says, oh, you shouldn't invest in business cards. You know what? It's led to more conversations because of those business cards and the conversation that ensued from like, oh, you invested in yourself with those cards, right? Yeah, I'm ready to invest in you, right? What are you going to do that stands out? And, so you look about it in that way, they don't cost a lot. Like at the end of the day, if $400 is what's going to break me, we got a bigger issue. On the other side of where I wish I hadn't spent money was this coaching program. And I did my homework. It wasn't like I went with the first one that talked with me. And I love the initial salespeople. The reality is I didn't like hardly anything else in the program. Like I would talk with my, they do the group workshops and, I felt like sometimes I was leading the group workshops more than the facilitators were. And then you had to watch all these pre-recorded videos. And I was like, I learned this, like 10 years ago. Like, I don't need this mindset stuff. And I'm not saying that from a place of arrogance. I'm saying that from a place of being realistic. I don't need 11 hours of how to talk myself out of fear. And they'd be like, if you don't watch the videos, then you're not considered complete. And I was like, I put it on 2 times speed and just let it run. And I felt bad because for a lot of people, like, they're going to find some value in that, but it just wasn't the right place for me. And I didn't get a return for that value. Now, on the other side of it, I obviously have a PR contract. And that's why I say, find what resonates with you, like sit with it. And everyone's going to tell you like, oh, if you make a decision today, then you're going to get a discount. This decision of, I forget what the coaching program called it, like decisive human being. We all want to be decisive. Well, you know what? I didn't like that decision. And the PR people, it's much more authentic. I knew the question, like, I don't want to be in a group conversation. That's just not what I want to do at this stage in my life and in my career. But if you give me one-on-one coaching, you give me clear, actionable return. I like earned media as well. Like, I can connect to, cool, here's the value. And I think it is getting the return for that value.
If you don't mind me asking, how much was this program? You don't have to give names or anything like that.
Yeah, it was 9,000. So if I look at that in principle, one, at this point, that's money that I could put into paid advertising. I could go get like a couple new cool outfits for a speaking engagement. No. But here's the other side of it. My boys are at an age where they need a new vehicle for their business. We live in Kansas. They can actually drive for work at their age. It's really critical for them that we have one vehicle right now. We need another one. I've got to make decisions. So if I had that decision to make again, could I invest in them? I 1,000,000 times over would choose to get them a vehicle than I would to do that, because I could have figured out the stuff from the coaching program. And that's why I say you're going to feel like there's times when you're building your business, or even when it's built and you're trying to scale it to the next level, don't come at it from a place of desperation and fear.
Yes.
You're not going to like the decision after you get out of that moment.
We are coming at the end of the podcast, but there's one question that is burning in my head, and I decided to ask out all the other questions that are on board over here. Just ask you this question. I know we're coming up at the end of 1 year. Have you made a decision on like whether you're going to go back to a corporate career or just continue on with the coaching?
Yes, right now I am continuing to build the business. That's where my focus is. And as long as it keeps on the path that it is, fantastic. And, are there moments if the right role came along from a corporate perspective and I thought I could go in and help build a culture that is the culture that I believe we need to have in corporate America, I would take it. And at the same time, I would still keep building timeout consulting. But right now, my biggest thing is if I go back to that sense of security, then I'm keeping myself from being able to help people. And that's truly what gives me energy and that enthusiasm and that intensity. Like, I've done the corporate bit.
Yes.
That book is finished. I'm working on book 2, and we're only like in chapter maybe getting to 2 here, right? There's a lot to be written. I don't want to close the book on that.
Well, first of all, I love that we had this conversation because you're like kind of in the middle of everything. I think the best podcast episodes are the ones that are kind of messy and the ones that make us kind of like feel like in the transition times and stuff. But how can people find you? How do people connect with you?
So there's 2 great easy ways. Obviously, you can go to the website, timeoutconsulting.com, spelled like the herb, THYME, consulting.com. There's great material on there. You can connect with me through the contact form on there. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I post usually 5 days a week. They're usually funny, personal, engaging stories. You can hear about those guys, which is my son's business sometimes, the Corgi. You can hear about my story, because I talk about some of those transitions. I get what it's like to have to retrain yourself after a corporate career and stepping into this space. And I also, I tell the stories around people. How do we bring good back into the environment that we're in instead of taking? How do we leave a lasting, courageous impact? And so if that sounds like you, I work with small businesses and startups as much as I do individuals, and, helping you connect that story so that you find your courage and you lean into it. It's time.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. It's such a pleasure. Make sure you follow Beverly. We'll have all the links in the description. Well, hopefully we have you for a part 2 or something.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, you need me like a part 2 and, like this, again, this is like test cricket, right? There's more than one game in the series. So we got to see how the total series plays out.
Yeah, we got to see like the ending, like what happens in like after the first year, or like, how you you are 6 months later, if you're like
Yeah.
not homeless or anything like that, like,
Yeah, exactly. Well,
or
so
maybe
here's how I
you're
look
to
at
the
it. Like
moon.
my
Yeah.
birthday's coming up at the end of August. Like
Mhm.
something amazing is going to happen, and I'm creating space for those amazing things to come in. And the thing is it takes as much energy to believe in fear as it does in hope. Fear consumes energy. Hope builds. It gives you energy, right? So when you think about like where are you putting your energy, I'm choosing to put my energy into believing what this is and what it's going to be instead of what I'm afraid it won't. Like don't give fear space.
Love it. Cool. That concludes our podcast.
Awesome.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.